It's always nice when a sponsored video is a game genre that you particularly enjoy, and IC Red fits that bill, doesn't it, Glen?
Yeah, it does. So this is a twin stick shooting roguelite, basically, where you'll make your way through a number of different environments. And obviously we'll go through the whys and wherefores in a moment, but just know straight away that it's a decent game, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. There's a few little quirks, as we'll also talk about, but you can also win yourself a copy of this one. Let us know which is your favourite within the genre. Things like Hades, you know, all those types of goodies. But what is IC Red all about? Well, let's find out. Storyline, you're looking at a quest for revenge. The main protagonist has suffered a quite devastating loss. We won't go into details, but he is literally working his way across the galaxy to wreak havoc on those responsible.
Absolutely. The red of the title comes in by way of the fact that your anger and rage is so much that you can only see the red of the enemies, you know, that your focus is so much on them that they kind of flash red, and there is a rage mode that we'll speak about in a moment that ties in further still with that idea.
You start out in a hub area and you'll come back to this place at many different times, but when you set out on your missions, you essentially go in your ship and can choose your location.
Yep, you'll have a number of different areas available to you that you can choose between, and this will change from run to run. They are graded on the amount of loot that you'll find there and also their difficulty. And as I said, you can choose to take one on, and then when you beat that one, you'll go back to this area, and again, you'll choose from the next circle, if you like, the next area.
It's also on your ship that you can keep track of a lot of the things that you've discovered, because as we'll go into, you really do need to go back to the ship and find out what the passive upgrades actually mean, what they do. But let's jump into the combat.
So it is twin stick, as we mentioned a moment ago. You'll be moving with the left stick and aiming, of course, with the right. You press ZR to shoot. You also have a grapple feature that you can use with ZL, and this will allow you to catch on to enemies and pull yourself towards them for melee attacks, or you can grab onto things like boxes and crates and either use them to throw at enemies or take the supplies inside them.
Now what's interesting is in each area, the enemies will basically rush towards any weapons that are on the ground. If not, they'll just try and attack you physically. Some of them will come in with weapons, but if they don't, you're essentially trying to keep them away from the weapons on the ground. But if they do snatch something up, you can then use that grapple to borrow it back.
You can, that's right, you can disarm them using that grapple, and you have your basic weapon, which is unlimited ammo, a pistol basically, and you can have one other weapon, and there are a number of different ones. You have rail guns, rocket launchers, shotguns, melee weapons. You've got hammers and all sorts, haven't you? So you can choose one of those, and obviously they have a finite amount of ammo, so that will run out and you need to pick something else up.
Now that grapple is also used, I don't know if you said this, Glenn, for closing the distance on enemies. It will show a symbol above their head, and if you can press the button at just the right moment, you'll essentially launch yourself towards them and be able to do like a brutal finishing move.
Yes, that's right, and this will help to fill your rage meter, and at a time when it's appropriate, you can click in the two sticks to activate this mode, and you'll become more powerful and take a bit less damage.
Now if you find yourself getting slightly lost, you can press the X button, hold that down, and it will show you any of the rooms that you've not previously visited in red. But if you've had an item that you haven't picked up, it will show that in white. So it's quite good in terms of navigation without being too hands-on. It's not like a map or anything, it just gives you a sense of where to head next.
Yeah, I did like that idea of having items that you've not picked up still shown by way of a white arrow. I thought that was a good idea. So in terms of what you can pick up then, you have the passive skills and abilities that we mentioned briefly earlier. These generally, not always, but generally come with the kind of positive, negative system of, for example, when your health is above 50%, it will reduce some of your stats, but when it drops below, it will increase them. So, you know, a decent one if you're running low on health for a boss, but if you're pretty good at the game, it's not going to do you any favours. And you also find print matter, I think it was called.
Yeah, something along those lines, isn't it? Yeah.
Which was basically your meta progression. So you had to pick these up, you'd find them in kind of canisters amongst the labs that you were searching through, and at the end of a stage or an area within a stage, you had to deposit them. If you didn't, you'd lose them. But then if you did die, you could go back to that hub world that Mark mentioned, and you could use them to buy upgrades, and then you basically clone yourself to upgrade yourself and implement those into your body.
Yeah, it's that old get out of jail free card for like futuristic roguelites, isn't it? The old cloning mechanic.
Yeah.
So you splice in those improvements using that print matter into your character, and they're permanent, and it's just that nice constant progression. Now, we did fight one boss, I think. I had a bit of a janky moment on it. Like, I'm sure I defeated it and then it like came back to life again. I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah, that was a bit odd. It was hard to tell whether that was planned and it was a second stage, a second evolution, or if the game just went a bit strange for a moment. But they definitely went down and got back up.
Yeah.
But yeah, the bosses, so at the end of each small area, you'll fight a boss. These are generally like robots with shields that you can again use that grapple gun to take off them. But then at the end of an area, so it's like 3 stages, say for example, and then you get to the end of an area, you'll fight a proper boss.
Now, what I know we'll see in the comments is I really like the look of these games, but they're always too difficult for me. I will say you can change the difficulty at any time. You can actually make it quite a bit easier by choosing easy mode, and you can also increase the strength of the auto aim to make that easier.
You can look at your stats in that hub world and it will show you, how many enemies you've defeated, how many bosses you've defeated, that sort of thing. I always like to look at those facts and figures in games, it does interest me. And there are also things like key cards that you'll find, so it's not completely linear, and you'll need to obviously pick those up to unlock doors as you go through each of the areas.
Yeah, it's really fast paced. I will say, just on a personal note, I like it when games have very low input latency. This one's very low, like it just feels very responsive. And as we'll talk about in the graphics section, there is a reason for that. So stylistically then, as we've already said, it uses that monochromatic with splashes of red. There's a name for that, isn't there? It's a certain art type.
There is, yes. It escapes me at the moment, I must say. But it's almost as well like a low-res pixel style, isn't it?
It is, and that's a benefit at times and a negative at others.
Yeah, most certainly. The benefit is it does have that stylistic look to it, as you mentioned, but there are times where it's so low res that it's almost difficult to read some of the, the information that you need on screen, the text on the screen, and I think they needed to kind of exclude text from that artistic style.
Yeah, as we say, performance is targeting 60 frames per second, which is great. That's what you want in this type of game. But I did notice I think we played for about 2.5 hours. By the end of that play session, performance was notably worse than it was at the start.
Yes.
So I think there's a memory leak.
Yeah.
Which is a little shame, but again, it's something we've seen many times, and it can be patched, or you can restart your game and it'll fix that.
Yeah, in terms of music, let's move on to music now. What was here was good, but there were times when the music wasn't as prominent or just stopped completely. You still had sound effects and things like that. Again, not sure whether that was a stylistic choice, but it didn't really work.
No, I thought the weapon sounds and sound effects in general were really strong, and it was really nice. And actually, I did notice the music earlier on, but then I really noticed when it kind of stopped or pulled back.
Yeah.
Was that stylistic? We don't know. But yeah, what is there is okay. It's just perhaps again a little tweak, a little patch, a little tinker under the hood.
Yeah, exactly right. And there were a few cutscenes here and there that explained some of what was going on without going overly explicit with it. In terms of value then, you're looking at £9.89 or your regional equivalent, but there is a launch day discount, which is approximately 50%, there or thereabouts. Prices will be at the bottom of the screen.
Yeah, the prices at the bottom of the screen, I would say this is an easy pickup.
Yeah.
Like, it's just an addictive game.
Yeah, if you have a love for these sort of games, classic twin stick shooters, obviously roguelite as well, but with a decent amount of meta progression where you do feel as if you're making some sort of progress. As Mark said, with this discounted price, it is a recommendation for sure. It does need a patch.
Yeah.
We've mentioned some of the issues. There was one more I would like to mention, which was that the button to switch between your weapons was the D-pad, basically left and right on the D-pad, which is not ideal when you're trying to navigate around enemies and switch weapons at the same time. It needed to be on the right-hand side for me. But, there's nothing there that will break your enjoyment of the game, I don't think.
No, it just needs a bit of spit and polish.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's it for that one. If you like roguelites, then do let us know what your favourite is, and we'll be giving away a couple of copies of this one. We gave away a couple of copies of that, what was it? What was that game, the beat 'em up? Big Helmet Heroes.
Yeah.
You could literally hear our brains ticking.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people were, one of the guys that got a copy of that, he was just really keen on it, really wanted to get it, but obviously budgets are tight and things, and he got his copy and was absolutely Bloody delighted.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, so just again, as Mark said at the beginning, just let us know your favourite game in this genre and we will pick a couple of people at random.
Thank you so much for watching. To our Patreons and members, if you want to save yourself a little bit of money in your eShop credit, head over to switchup.gg where you get 5% on any of your purchases in cashback.
Thank you to our patrons and our channel members for your continued support, and to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.